Our top story just a day after the exclusive interview that Tulsi Gabbard, the US Director of National Intelligence, gave us, where she spoke about her concerns on the persecution of minorities in Bangladesh. There's been a very strong reaction from Muhammad Yunus himself, the chief executive of Bangladesh. He's hit out at the comments made to us. Let's listen in to what she said yesterday before we analyze Bangladesh's reaction and the significance of Tulsi Gabbard's remarks. We've seen a lot of political changes over there, a lot of violence over there, and several reports of attacks on minorities. Is the United States concerned about the situation there and the need for stability at all levels, not just political stability?
Yeah, of course. The long-time unfortunate persecution and killing and abuse of religious minorities, Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Catholics, and others, has been a major area of concern for the United States government and, of course, President Trump and his administration. The talks are just beginning between President Trump's new cabinet coming in and the government of Bangladesh, but this continues to remain a central focus area of concern, once again with the threat of Islamist terrorists and their overall effort, the global effort of all of these different groups that are really rooted in their same ideology, their same objective, which is to rule and govern with an Islamist caliphate. This obviously affects people of any other religion other than one that they find acceptable, and they choose to carry this out through very violent and terroristic means. President Trump remains committed once again to identifying this ideology that drives Islamist terrorism, helping to defeat that ideology and defeat their ability to exact that terror on people, the American people and others.
All right, so let's look at the significance of those remarks. Joining us now, Veena Sikri, former High Commissioner of India to Bangladesh, Brahma Chelani, the Strategic Affairs expert, and Mohammad Kamruzaman, a senior journalist in Bangladesh. Thank you for being with us. Ambassador Sikri, let me come to you first. Based on what you heard Tulsi Gabbard tell us, is there a sense that the government, or the interim government in Bangladesh, has been read the riot act in a sense? They've been told that we know what's going on and that that is unacceptable to us.
Absolutely. I think you're quite right, and I must congratulate you on asking such pointed questions yesterday to Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence. And I think the Yunus-led regime in Bangladesh, I won't even call it a government, had been completely alarmed by it. Because if you recall, when our Prime Minister was in Washington, D.C. and was having talks with President Trump, there was that remark from President Trump saying that I leave Bangladesh to Prime Minister Modi. And this was completely misinterpreted in Dhaka. And they kept saying, oh, no. Here, President Trump was only referring to the particular question. He wasn't referring to the issue of Bangladesh. They've been living in a totally different kind of a paradise of their own. But I think this remark by the director of the DNI of USA, President Trump's very senior cabinet member, has really put them on the mat and made them realize that this is very serious, and the Trump administration seriously believes in two aspects. One is the rise of Islamic extremism in Bangladesh, and this reference to an Islamic caliphate. This is very real and very true, because it was none other than Mahfouz Anam, who is the chief, the special advisor to Muhammad Yunus, and designated by Muhammad Yunus, described by Muhammad Yunus as the mastermind behind the meticulously designed regime change which unseated Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. He has tweeted about an Islamic caliphate and saying they are even prepared to go to civil war to establish the Islamic caliphate. Of course, these tweets were deleted later, but it's very well known, and he's often described as a member of Hizb ut-Tahrir. We're seeing in Bangladesh the coming together of all.
Oh, sorry, we've lost a line over there. We'll come back to her in just a moment from now. But let me go across to Mohammad Kamruzaman, who's with us as well. Ma'am, we've got your line back. Go ahead.
Okay, so what I was saying was that the coming together of all the Islamist forces in Bangladesh today in preparation for the next elections is completely alarming. They're even trying to set aside the BNP and others and say, no, we Islamists must be together, and if we are together, we can rule in Bangladesh and have an Islamic caliphate. That is why Ms. Tulsi Gabbard was absolutely right to express her concern and worry about this. And the reflection of this on the attacks on the minorities, on the Hindus, the Christians, and the Buddhists, and all others in Bangladesh has been a culmination. It's never been so bad since 1961. It's been continuing since then, but I think the fact that they tried to do this to push them out of Bangladesh, that was the effort this time, push them out so that you'll have a pure Islamic caliphate. And the remarkable thing is that the minority communities have decided to take a stand and to stay put in Bangladesh, and this is what's concerning them. So this is the situation. I think...
Ma'am, just half a second, let me get a reaction. Mohammed Kamruzaman, come in over here, because you know, what the ambassador is saying is also backed up by numbers. There's a January 2025 police report which has documented 1,769 instances of attacks and vandalism against minorities from the 4th of August last year up till the 8th of January, right? And 1,234 of these are politically motivated, 20 are communal, and 161 approximately are deemed false or unsubstantiated. So, I mean, the numbers are staggering, over 1,200 for sure. But there are those, for example, the Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council, who say that the numbers are actually well above 2,000. And therefore, what's being investigated is just a fraction of the real number of cases. What is your information in this?
Thank you very much, Vishnu. I want to start with Tulsi. I saw the interview that you took fantastically, and your question was very straightforward. And Tulsi also said, but her replying after your question was a little bit generous. And he said that long-term unfortunate persecution, actually, it covers the duration of Sheikh Hasina regime also. Actually, Vishnu, you know that there were some attempts of establishing Islamic Caliphate here in Bangladesh. Even in 2004, 2005, there were countrywide attacks in this country. But what we saw actually, even the imams of different mosques, they stood against that attempt. Mass people stood against that attempt, and even no government in Bangladesh anytime supported any attempt of establishing Islamic Caliphate. So the narration maybe on social media or some other parts that there may be patronization from the government regarding establishing Islamic Caliphate. This is totally false, according to me, as a field reporter in this regard.
Fair enough. And, so let's try and get. I take your point. Let me bring Brahma Chilani on this. Dr. Chilani, is there evidence of Bangladesh moving towards a more rigid form of Islam, possibly a potential influence of an Islamic caliphate, or towards the creation of one?
Vishnu, Bangladesh's descent into Islamist violence has shaken up even the army chief. The army chief who played a key role in the regime change last August. Just a few days ago, in fact, less than 3 weeks ago, he said publicly, we're going through a chaotic situation. A chaotic situation. This is what General Zaman said. With the Yunus regime freeing terrorists and convicted Islamists, crime is going through the roof in Dhaka itself. And what have the authorities done recently? They've deployed army, police, joint street patrols with additional support from the Navy and Coast Guard. Where in the world do you have in the national capital Army, Navy, and Coast Guard doing patrolling? And yet, they have not been able to control the crime because this regime has freed terrorists, convicted Islamists, and criminals. So instead of the democratic transition that the Yunus regime promised, Bangladesh today has become a mobocracy where mobs rampage on the streets. They attack police, they burn businesses and homes, they forcibly take away arrested suspects from law enforcement personnel. The interim regime has not only lifted bans on Al-Qaeda linked groups, but also allowed such groups to grow in strength by recruiting more and more members. Now the chickens have come home to roost with Islamists and other terrorist groups seeking to dictate terms to the interim regime. This is the state of affairs. And we should not forget that the 84-year-old Yunus has become little more than the civilian face of what is effectively military mullah rule.
Okay.
But today, it's the mullahs, the Islamists, it is the groups that have transnational affiliation, the jihadists who are creating this caliphate, a global caliphate. They are the ones that are calling the shots, and there is reason for this, because if you take the Hifazat-e-Islam, which has a representative in Yunus's cabinet, that umbrella organization has warned recently that if the government did not accept their 13 demands, another revolution will take place, and this time it will be an armed struggle.
Yeah.
And the Jamaat Islami Chhatra Shibir, which dominated Bangladesh's student-led uprising that toppled Hasina, today the Chhatra Shibir is dominant in the student community, dominant in terms of the discourse, dominant in enforcing new social norms, and also seeking to dictate terms to the interim regime.
All right, Dr. Chelani, half a second. Major Razaul Karim joins us. Major Karim, respond to what Dr. Chelani was saying. And, there has always been this sense, certainly among commentators and others in Bangladesh, that this is an India portraying a wrong sort of sense of what's happening in Bangladesh. Our social media is playing out in a particular way. We are against what's happening in your country. But this is the US Director of National Intelligence, and completely independent to India and our thinking, right, making this statement. What does that say?
Thank you, Vishnu. Actually, I will have questions that is the statement is against Islam or is against extremism? If it is against extremism, then it is very clear. But if it is against Islam, then we need to set our mind before. Because you see, the word Islamist Caliphate, or in other languages we tell that Islamic Khilafat in Bengali or Arabic.
Yeah.
So this is basically in English, proper English, if you term it, that is Islamic State. So if you go against Islamist state, then I will disagree, because actually Islamic State means peaceful country, or actually what Islam says, that is about the peace, about the tranquility, not violence, not extremism, not terrorism. So about Islam, if you speak, then my statement will be different. But about the extremism, what Tulsi said, Tulsi Gabbard mentioned, basically her statement is quite that is to me, that is actually biased, and that is damaging our image, our national image, and that is also portraying a wrong picture about with a wrong perception about a country. Basically, the period she's mentioning, that doesn't include only the Yunus regime, that also includes the Sheikh Hasina's regime. So what happened in Sheikh Hasina's regime, the same thing is happening now. We cannot.
Yeah, but that's not an excuse, is it?
Yeah, no, I'm not giving excuse. I'm telling, yes, the country's situation is not good, but that doesn't mean that we are having extremism in our country. We need some time. We need your cooperation. We need cooperation from India. We need cooperation from United States. But we don't expect such a statement which will fueling our religious sentiment, which will go against our national security, will go our national image. Rather, that should be encouraging.
No, but Major, respectfully, it's not about an image. It's about whether attacks are taking place since the regime change or not. There's statistics, including Bangladesh police investigations.
No such attacks. Actually, this was the
there have been attacks. There have been Bangladeshi investigations. A January 2025 police report documented.
Different.
One second, sir.
Please.
A January 2025 police report documented 1,769 instances of attacks and vandalism against minorities. If you speak to religious groups, such as the Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council, they say it's well more than 2,000, right, in 2024 alone, going into this year, right, with over 2,000 incidents in the first month post-collapse. So it's no longer a question of it's not happening, where is this all coming from? This is data which is coming out of Bangladesh
right
itself.
Now, I give you an
she
example.
Is reflecting that. She
I
is
give you an
reflecting
example.
that.
In that last Friday, before last Friday, there was one incident happened in front of me. There were a lot of people I observed. They were on the street. They had been claiming that they want Islamic State. And I was checking individuals. I was asking them, who are you? I have found them. All of them, most of them were university students. And
no, but you found, but sir, Major, you just told us now that you found university students, some of whom were seeking an Islamic caliphate.
Those guys, I checked them. Those guys, before that, there was a narrative. This kind of people are coming from madrasas, but they were not from the madrasas. They are from university, and that means that was a fake one. That was a conspiracy. No, that was made a story. The narrative was different.
Major, let's just focus on what you said. You said you spoke to a few students.
No.
And some of these students
you cannot define what
cause, right?
No, that I did not mean that. I wanted to mean that these are the fake stories. These are the actually stories made by the Awami League or some political parties who doesn't want a stable country right now. They want to portray,
why would this regime in America not want stability?
No. Actually, see, that Tulsi expressed, that is completely biased on. She has not visited Bangladesh. She has not checking the actual
But surely she's basing it on some information. I mean, we've had two extremely respectable.
That our informations are correct? How can we be very sure that our informations are correct? I'm not very convinced, because
I just read out statistics to you.
Giving the narratives.
The statistics themselves are Bangladeshi statistics. These are claims by Bangladeshi organizations.
See, there might be statistics, but you need to know the narratives based on what story these figures are coming out.
This by a police investigation.
Yeah.
There is no narrative associated.
No.
Most of these are political. Some of them are communal.
Police investigation cannot be the right
one.
But
most of these are communal. Most of these are political attacks. Some of them are communal attacks. Irrespective, minorities, per your own data, have been attacked.
In Bangladesh, our Hindu people in Bangladesh, most of the time you will find that a lot of incidents happens that was fake, that was created, but actual Hindu people, they are in a peaceful position now.
Okay, well, that's good to know. But just on the point, and I know Ambassador wants to come in, but half a second, on the point of this Islamic caliphate, I mean, we've seen Muhammad Yunus react to the interview very strongly as well. Let's just go through what she said. I quote, "Once again, with the threat of Islamist terrorists and their global effort rooted in the same ideology and has the same objective, which is to rule and govern with an Islamist caliphate. This affects people of other religions and they choose to carry this out through violent means." She is talking about what might ultimately result through extremely aggressive Islamic terrorism in Bangladesh, right? She's not said that there is an Islamic caliphate in place, but she points to where it may be headed. That's her view. But Ambassador Sikri, please come in with your point.
I was making 2 points. One thing, that just as of yesterday or day before, there was an attack on a young Hindu doctor. She's the daughter of Dr. Pran Gopal Datta, and she was just leaving her hospital, and she was accosted by 3 males that, "Please come with us." And they were trying to kidnap her. It was just lucky that the army came in and rescued her. And it was clearly a communal attack. And this is what to say, every day these attacks are happening. They're being written about in the Bangladesh media as well. And the Bangladesh media is today questioning that why these attacks happening. The question about Islamism.
I have a question to Mr.
The Islamic caliphate, which is the demand for an Islamic caliphate. You know, the way in which prisoners who have been convicted of terrorist acts are being released right, left, and center by this regime in Bangladesh. They're on the streets and they're being freed and they're asking for an Islamic caliphate.
Sure.
Your own members who are now advisors in the government have tweeted that we need an Islamic caliphate and we'll get it even if necessary through civil war. So please, I think living in a paradise that doesn't exist is not the reality. The reality is knowing that what is happening in Bangladesh is getting out to the rest of the world, and everybody in the world knows about it. You cannot blame the Indian media. I mean, we're very fond of blaming the Indian media for writing about communal rights or blaming the Indian media for writing about Islamic terrorism. It's there everywhere. It's staring everybody in the face, and
All
that's
right.
why people did.
Okay, so and I think what the interview establishes is that there is an international view on what is taking place in Bangladesh. Let us hope that, I mean, this ends, because nobody wants more violence targeted against anybody, minorities or anybody else.